Imagine this, a supply chain as vast and winding as a river. At its source are raw materials, the essential building blocks of today's industries. As they move downstream, they pass through factories, assembly lines, and finally land in the hands of consumers. But let's be clear, the real power isn't at the checkout counter. It's upstream, at the source. History tells the story. Wars aren't fought over grocery stores or boxed products, they're waged over farmland, oil fields, and rare minerals. Ask any military strategist, they'll say the same thing: control the resources, and you control the outcome. But what happens when that control is contested? Take oil, for example. Nations have gone to war over it, sending armies across borders to seize oil fields. Why? Because without crude oil, gas stations and refineries are useless. The same idea applies to access to water, fishing zones, and increasingly, rare earth minerals. It's an old dynamic. And right now, China holds the upper hand, dominating the supply of many of these critical materials. That's one reason why sanctions often fall short when aimed at resource-rich nations. And this isn't just about geopolitics, it affects everyday consumers. Look at Russia. Despite heavy sanctions, its natural resource exports continue to fuel its economy. The same goes for China in the semiconductor race. The US tried to limit China's access to high-end chips by targeting firms like Huawei. But here's the issue. Those sanctions hit the final products, not the raw inputs needed to make them. And that's where the real problem lies. China controls many of those key inputs. Now think, what does this mean for the price of your next smartphone or electric vehicle? Take gallium, for instance. Most people hadn't heard of it until recently, but in tech circles, its importance is well known. Gallium is essential for making gallium nitride, a material used in high-performance semiconductors and telecom equipment. After the US restricted chip exports, China hit back by banning gallium exports. The impact was immediate. China controls between 95 and 98% of the world's gallium supply. What does that mean for global innovation and competition? Gallium nitride plays a huge role in telecom, especially in 5G. Huawei, one of the main targets of US chip restrictions, uses gallium nitride to build 5G gear that's lighter, more efficient, and cheaper to install. Their systems need fewer cooling units and lighter towers, which slashes both setup and maintenance costs. This affects the rollout cost of 5G networks, and the price you pay for faster internet. Meanwhile, rivals like Ericsson and Nokia have struggled to match this level of efficiency, putting Huawei well ahead in the global 5G race. The US Pentagon's reaction shows how tricky this situation is. Even as public officials push to remove Huawei tech from American networks, the Department of Defense has repeatedly asked for delays. Why? Because Huawei's equipment is hard to replace. Alternatives are either too expensive or simply not as good. In 5G, Huawei is arguably a full generation ahead, and its edge is built on access to gallium and engineering expertise. But the implications go beyond telecom. Gallium is also essential in power electronics, green energy, autonomous vehicles, and military systems. A 2021 White House report labeled gallium as a critical supply chain material and mentioned it 14 times, pointing out vulnerabilities across multiple sectors, from chips to clean tech. Meanwhile, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, or CSIS, warned that even a 30% disruption in gallium supply could cost the U.S. economy $62 billion each year, with major impacts on industry and national defense. Just think of the ripple effects, from how long your EV lasts to how much your energy-saving appliances cost. China's dominance in gallium is closely linked to its leadership in aluminum production, where gallium is often produced as a byproduct. After decades of strategic investment, China now manufactures over half of the world's aluminum, a lead that naturally extends to gallium as well. When you look at charts comparing global gallium production, China's output rises like a vertical spike, towering above all others. According to CSIS, China accounts for more than 98% of global raw gallium production, leaving the United States and its allies heavily dependent on Chinese exports. So, how did we get here? And more importantly, how do we move forward? This reliance has major consequences for critical industries. Take semiconductors, for example, the backbone of everything from smartphones to advanced defense systems. These chips rely on gallium wafers for next-gen performance. Without a stable supply, production slows down, stifling innovation and weakening competitiveness. The same is true for renewable technologies. Solar panels and wind turbines depend on gallium-based materials to boost efficiency and longevity. Could this supply risk delay the shift toward clean energy? Huawei's intellectual property portfolio only intensifies the issue. The company holds over 2,000 patents related to gallium technologies, putting it firmly ahead in the global race. United States firms, by comparison, are behind, not just in material access, but also in research and development and patent strength. This raises some hard questions. How can America remain competitive when its tech sector relies so heavily on a geopolitical rival? And what happens if China tightens control even more? The U.S. government's current strategy in the chip war reveals a major disconnect. It focuses on restricting exports of finished semiconductors to China, but doesn't fully address the upstream risk, raw material dependency. It's like damming a river downstream while ignoring who controls the source. Did Washington misjudge China's leverage? Or did it assume China wouldn't push back? Either way, the fallout could shape global strategy for decades to come. When China began blocking exports of rare earths and other vital elements, it exposed just how fragile Western supply chains really are. This tit-for-tat strategy drives home a key truth. Control over raw materials grants nations enormous power. If the United States says no chips for China, Beijing can respond by saying no materials for your chips. That kind of leverage changes everything. And the effects stretch well beyond global politics. They ripple through industries and consumer markets alike. A 2023 CSIS report backed up these concerns. It stated that China's near monopoly over gallium and rare earths presents serious, perhaps unmanageable challenges for Western economies. The findings echoed the 2021 White House review, which also emphasized the need to diversify supply and boost domestic production. Still, progress has been slow. Developing new sources for gallium takes years of funding, innovation, and infrastructure. And until then, China's lead remains unchallenged. Could this delay severely limit the United States? The chip war has uncovered a fundamental weakness in the global system, an over-reliance on one country for crucial inputs. Now, the issue isn't just how to compete, it's how to build smarter, more resilient systems. In a world where access to resources shapes power, the risks of inaction are growing. But perhaps the biggest question is, are we truly ready for what comes next? Thanks for watching.